Hi, welcome to the Take 5 podcast, the show that helps strengthen firefighters in protecting those relationships that matter most. I'm your host, Lee Sullivan, licensed mental health counselor and certified emotionally focused therapist. I'm so glad you're here today. Hi, welcome back. So part of my job requires me to have CEUs and continue my credentialing. I often have to go to workshops or conferences out of town. They're not usually near me, and so I end up having to stay in a hotel. I do not sleep well in a hotel already. I certainly do not sleep well in a hotel room by myself. And anytime I have a chance to sleep or get good quality rest, I just covet it. I'm just so grateful for that. Well, several years ago, I happened to be at an out-of-town conference, and there were no people on the suites either side of me. It was wonderful. I just had this potential of wonderful rest. And also, by the way, typically with conferences, they're numerous days in a row, and so you're tired already from the workshops that you attend to. You guys have to do this too. And so anyway, I was really looking forward to a good night's rest because no one had checked in on either of the suites beside my room. One night in the middle of the conference at about 2 or 3 in the morning, someone checked in, a couple checked in one of the rooms beside mine. I had just fallen asleep. I was exhausted from attending all these workshops and learning opportunities. There was a man who spoke loudly and really firmly and kind of directly to the female. The woman mumbled a lot. She was incoherent, and he seemed to understand her, but I couldn't understand anything she was saying. They were both very loud. On top of this, there was a large dog that they had checked in with that was barking like crazy. And so they were each trying to talk above the dog. And so the loud just got louder. I was so pissed. I wanted to either go over there and confront them or bang on the wall and tell them to shut up. It was horrible. And it continued like this for at least an hour. Because I was by myself, I decided, nope, just lay low. And so I put a pillow over my head, just trying to muffle the sound, and fell asleep out of sheer exhaustion. The next morning, I went downstairs, or I started to go downstairs to get a cup of coffee, and someone asked me to hold the elevator door. Now, normally I take the stairs everywhere I go. I don't even know why I was in the elevator, other than all I can think of was I was so tired. So, of course, I held the door for this person, and as they turned the corner to come into the elevator, I realized this was my neighbor. He was a large man, over 6 feet tall, very large man. The female, his wife, girlfriend, partner, was clutching his arm. She had a white cane. She was obviously vision impaired, probably blind. With her other hand, she was holding a guide dog, a big black lab guide dog. And he was speaking very slowly, very matter-of-factly, and clearly to her, almost as if he was speaking to a child. And so it became really apparent to me that she had probably some neurological issues going on, many more challenges, not just her vision. So I'm telling you this story because my assumptions of these people the night before, based on the puzzle pieces that I had, man talking to a female, dog barking in a non-pet hotel, very nice hotel. Female was incoherent, very, very incredibly difficult to understand, mumbly, and he was being direct and kind of assertive. All those puzzle pieces painted a picture for me that where I could make some assumptions about them. Checking in the middle of the night, probably snuck in their dog, probably were drunk, and it was a husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend. The next day, I had many more puzzle pieces. Mainly, I got to have eyes on them. I got to see for myself them interacting with one another. I could see for myself the challenges that she had going on. And actually, I got to see him, the way that he was talking to her was very loving and caring. It was with a lot of kindness. Even though he was being firm and direct, it was with tremendous kindness. I could see that. With these added puzzle pieces, I got to create a new picture for this couple. I'm telling you all this because our assumptions of other people actually impacts and makes a difference on our outcome with them. So I want to follow this up with some science. So Brené Brown is a grounded theory researcher. She takes, well, let me explain what grounded theory is. Grounded theory research is where you ask a question or several questions to your participants in your research study, and you allow them just to free-form answer. And based on their answers, patterns will arise. In other words, a theory will emerge from the data. And so the participants' answers lead researchers to a theory. So Brené Brown works with doctoral students, and she was in her own individual, she tells the story many times, but she was in her own individual therapy appointment when her therapist asked her, "Do you think people are doing the best they can?" And Brené Brown brought that to her. She had her own experience with that question where she had to wrestle some stuff out for herself personally. But ultimately, it changed the course of her research. She brought that to her doctoral students, and they developed a study around it. And since then, they've been asking the same question of participants for the last 10 or 15 years. And very early on in their research, what they discovered was several patterns emerged very quickly, which that's not so common for grounded research or grounded theory research. So it tells us that the patterns are distinct and actually valid. So what they asked participants was, do you think people are doing the best they can with the tools they have today? People's answers were very polarized. It was either, yes, I think so, I hope so, or hell no. People who answered yes they quantified their answer. They would often talk about, well, I hope so, I believe they are, or I want to believe that people are doing the best that they can with what they have today. And then they would talk about themselves. They would say, and actually they would cite examples of their own lives by telling the study, the grad students, I hope so, because when I do this thing, when I give my best and it falls short or I still fail, I hope that other people believe the best about me, that they believe that I'm doing my best. The participants who answered, hell no, I don't believe that people are doing their best, they could do better. I'm laughing because I believe, well, I know once upon a time I was in that category. I think I'm recovering from that category. But the hell no, people aren't doing their best. A couple things emerged about them. They were adamant. They did not quantify their answer. In other words, they were absolutely direct about absolutely not. They don't believe people are doing their best. And they also talked about themselves in reference to their answer, but their speaking about themselves was very self-critical, judgmental, and filled with a lot of shame. I find that interesting. So these folks actually struggled a lot with perfectionism. They offered examples of when they did not perform well, or in fact they had failed. In other words, the people who answered hell no were just as hard on themselves as they were on other people. I want to take this research and drill it down to where we live. So I encourage you to think of a person at work who you are frustrated by, who you are disappointed by, who you either have felt resentment toward, or you feel the rumblings, the beginning of resentment toward them now. And go ahead and write down their name. If you need to go get a pen and paper and pause me, please go do that. Writing down their name is important to this exercise. Do you see their name written down? What if you had it on the highest authority that this person was doing the very best they could with the resources that they have today, with the energy level they have today, with the education level, with the experiences that they have today, with the amount of sleep that they have today? What if you had it on the highest authority that this person is in fact doing the best that they can with the resources at their disposal today? Tomorrow they might be better. We hope they're better. But today this is the best they have. How would you feel about yourself knowing this new information, adding this new piece to the puzzle? How would you feel about yourself? How would you perceive yourself, or what new beliefs would you incorporate about yourself? What new messages would you start to tell yourself? What would you change in your response to them? How would this new information change what you believe about yourself, about your own sense of worth and value? Go ahead and take a few minutes to ponder those questions. Write down your answers so you can really reflect on them. When someone tells you their story, it may be helpful to have two assumptions. First, assume love, care, and concern. Assume that they love, they care, and they are concerned just as much as you are. Secondly, it might help to assume that they are doing the best they can with the resources that they have available today, just as you are. They're doing their very best. Having these two assumptions and as your starting point, as your pivot point in a conversation with someone, helps you to increase your empathy for them. It helps you to find connection with them. It helps you to find a place of beginning with them, not against them. The magic in this reframing technique or this reframing tool is it helps you to have less self-judgment and more self-acceptance. As we suspend our judgment of others, research shows that we also suspend judgment of ourselves. As we have compassion on others, love, care for others, we also increase those attributes toward self. Thank you for joining me today as we look closer at our assumptions of others, which ultimately is a glimpse into what we assume about ourselves. Assuming others are doing the very best that they can with what they have available today helps you come full circle and increases your self-compassion. It reduces your self-judgment and it increases your self-understanding. If you learned something useful from today's episode, please like us and leave a comment below. Feel free to also leave me comments on if you have new ideas for new episodes, future episodes, ideas where you want me to do the legwork for the research and get the material out there. If it's helpful to minimize or reduce the impact to the critical incidents that you experience. Join me again next week as we continue to look at the research, the science on secure attachment patterns and how they build or increase our resilience. For a list of references used in today's episode, please visit our website at take5withlee.com. You'll also find more resources for first responders that have been vetted for cultural competence. Remember, what we see, we can change one feeling, one message, one conversation at a time. Thank you for joining me as we learn to tap into our emotion signals, which will ultimately build resilience, protecting and preserving those relationships that matter most. Be safe out there and be well.